I think the most important challenge is to only recycle batteries which have really expired. At the moment, almost 90% of the recycled batteries are still okay and could easily be used in a different setting for up to 10 years. That's an unbelievable waste of resources if you ask myself.
Whether ChatGPT or digital art generators, it's hard to avoid the topic of AI these days. And of course, it also plays a major role in the energy industry. Take, for example, the use case in battery storage systems. But what is really behind it? What is the added value of integrating AI in battery storage systems? We'll find out in this episode, so stay tuned. Welcome to the Smartery Podcast, a podcast for and with the creators of the new energy world. A world in which energy will be renewable, decentralized and digital, bringing together electricity, heat and mobility. Let us show you how we will get there and who will get us there. My guest today is Mandy Schipke, co-founder and CEO of the AI company NOVUM, which actually has been around for 9 years already. Additionally, she's also a head of management board of the energy cluster of Saxony in Germany. Well, Mandy, it's awesome to have you on the podcast. Glad to have you on board.
Hello, it's nice to be here.
Now, obviously, no matter which industry you're in, even as a consumer, AI is the talk of the town in 2023. It's seen a huge hype around it. But let's zero in on specifically on our industry and within that industry, specifically on electric energy storage. In your eyes, is it a hype as well in your industry, or does it already bring real benefits? And if so, in which areas?
So the simple answer to your question is yes, it is both. It is an hype, but of course you have real benefits from it. I know that coming from an AI company, I should usually be a huge fan of artificial intelligence, but we want to be honest in this podcast. So artificial intelligence is not and will never be the holy grail as everyone sees it today. It always depends on where you use it and how. For example, if you have all historical data of a battery storage, AI could easily determine the state of charge, the state of health, prevent some burnings, or could give you forecasts about the lifetime of your storage in different settings. But if there is something wrong with the data or you simply don't have enough, you should rather throw dice instead of using AI, because what you then get out of it is just crap. And to make it worse, AI usually is a black box, so you don't know that it is crap. So all artificial intelligence companies, universities, everyone working with AI needs very good strategies to deal with this kind of data problem. So you need good strategies to figure out, is my data good? Are my results good? Can I trust what the AI gives to me? So I would advise you to ask everyone working with AI, and you are not sure if you can trust this person, how do you make sure that your results are reliable? Or what do you do when the data input is not sufficient? If you don't get an answer, then run. We at NOVUM would have run as well, but we needed a long time to work with this. So that's the major challenge working with AI.
All right, I see. I mean, that's a really good point because you guys have been around for 9 years already. So you had plenty of time to figure out the kinks and challenges. So speaking from that experience, what is possible already today as we speak, and where will the journey take us from here?
Wow, okay, that's a big picture. Well, having the right data or knowing how to deal with a lack of data, as I said, there is no question that at the moment you can determine a battery state or can identify security issues way better with AI than without, because AI has just more capacity to have all factors in mind and can deal with it. We as humans are always limited in our brain capacity, and AI is not. And batteries rely to many influencing factors, and AI has just the capabilities to keep all these factors in mind. So when it comes to determine the battery state, thumbs up, everything is fine with AI. When we talk about lifetime predictions, of course AI is good as well, but at the moment we have limited access to data sets according very old battery storage. So the message in this point is that It is good what comes as a lifetime prediction, way better than what you get from laboratory modeling or something like that. But it will be better in the future because the more old storages we see, the better the AI input will be. And of course, the better the results.
So the more batteries, the more older batteries, the more data and the more data to feed the AI with. Now, I think your solution and generally any AI company out there usually says, our solution is designed to make batteries more efficient, longer lasting, safer, more sustainable. That actually does sound like the holy grail you were speaking about earlier. So how are you able to do that? And in which areas, or are there batteries where it actually does not work? And if so, how can that be solved? That was 3 questions in one, actually.
Yes, that's a major challenge. Okay, I try to answer all 3 questions. First of all, of course, it often sounds like the Holy Grail. And to be honest, in parts, it is the Holy Grail because it makes things better than they are. Okay, it's easier to determine the battery state than it currently is. And that's an achievement. We can be happy about it, but that is not the goal, the final goal we have already reached, and we have to do nothing to become better. So what is the challenge? I told you in the beginning, it's always the data. If you have it, then it's fine. Usually all AI companies do then the following things. They take the live data from the batteries, so via an API or cloud connection or something like that, and take the complete live data set in a very good sampling rate. Just to give you a picture, you would need voltage, temperature, and current every second to every 60 seconds. And over the complete lifespan of the battery. This you feed in artificial intelligence, huge calculation capacity, us as humans would not be able to do that. And then they can give you out a kind of a battery state or do forecasts or something like that. It's way better than we as humans could do it. But if you don't have data, then there is a problem. For example, if you think of second life batteries, where you usually get completely nothing. So you don't have access to the BMS data, you don't have any history of the battery, and then you should use AI. Okay, this is funny. So that was a challenge we had to face as well. And until 2 years ago, it was not possible to solve this problem. But then we invented, I don't know how to say, a trick to get AI run, although you don't have data. And that is that we take the data ourselves. And I think this is something every other company should take into account. If you don't have it, then take it yourself. And this means that we test the battery for 90 seconds with a special measurement method. And then we take this measurement method and let artificial intelligence work with that measurement method. So 2 ways. Either you have the complete data set, then you don't need to measure at all. Or if you don't have any data, then you test it and you use artificial intelligence to evaluate the battery state from that. You can combine both methods, then it's pretty cool because this measurement method gives you some ideas of what is up in the battery state, what's really happening, and you get more information than from the data itself.
There are 2 very impressive facts in your statement. The one is that generally taking the data every 60 seconds over the whole lifespan of a battery, I mean, that's a huge amount of data.
Yeah, and that is not a good data set.
That requires actually also a huge amount of storage space. And that's not even a good data set. So you say that it has to be more precise than that.
Yes, exactly. So having data every 60 seconds is just the lower border to get AI work. The results will not be so good, but okay. If you want to have really good results, then every second, definitely. This is a huge data set, and you have to communicate this kind of data.
How much data is that? Are we talking about gigabytes, and where is that usually stored?
Yes, of course. And if you imagine a huge battery storage consisting thousands of different battery modules, and from each module you need this kind of data density, then having some storages, you have terabytes of data sets. So that's a lot.
And now what is really fascinating is that you seem to be able to replace that huge data set by just a small snippet of working with a battery of 90 seconds. How does that work? That 90 seconds is sufficient to almost replace the whole lifetime of a data set?
Yeah, because it's a completely different approach. When you have the historical data of the battery, you train a model for this battery that gets to know this kind of battery and collects every factor around the battery, outside of the battery, to conclude what is happening inside the battery. The measurement method looks inside the battery, so I can prevent myself from calculating all factors around the battery because I have a non-invasive view inside the battery chemistry. The method is called electrochemical impedance spectroscopy. Whoever comes from the battery branch has heard of it before. It's quite complicated to deal with it, and it's well known. And you see what is happening inside the battery chemistry. So looking directly inside, we can save having a look around what is happening around the battery and can take the battery state from inside the battery.
So I see. Either you deduct and you guess what's been happening inside the battery, or you look directly inside and you get the real picture as it is.
Yes.
Now, of course, we're talking about batteries and batteries and batteries, maybe in storage, maybe in e-vehicles. All these batteries, of course, ideally will be recycled at some point down the future. So what challenges come with the recycling process and how can AI help there?
I think the most important challenge is to only recycle batteries which have really expired. At the moment, almost 90% of the recycled batteries are still okay and could easily be used in a different setting for up to 10 years. That's an unbelievable waste of resources, if you ask myself. And everything just because until today, there was no method that you can test batteries quick and easy to see which are good and which should be directly recycled. Just to give you a picture, we have been talking about this 90 seconds test. This is not state of the art right now. We just started with it. The standard testing method is making a battery full and empty under standard conditions, and that lasts between 5 to 10 hours per battery. Way too long and complicated to be done outside a laboratory or by normal people. And with every battery that comes back, imagine these huge amounts coming back from the e-fleets out in the field. That is why we had to invent this measurement method to do it in a quick manner. Then you know the first step, what should be done. And of course, you should do other things as well, because testing is not the answer to everything. When you have tested the battery, you have to decide what to do with it. Do I use it maybe again in a vehicle? Can I place it in a stationary storage? Do I have to throw it away? I don't know. So here's again a spot where artificial intelligence can help to simulate for which use case this particular battery would have the longest lifespan, so that you can decide where the value of the battery is the best. And then if you place it in the second application, then again, AI could observe this battery, because working with second life batteries is not so easy. Sometimes they have security issues, sometimes they behave in a strange manner according to how they have been used in their previous life. So having them under control is really good to see if there are problems occurring or when it will reach the end of life, so that I don't have bad surprises and have to read in the newspaper, for example, kindergarten burns because of the storage next door. This is something nobody wants to see, and which would kill the second life case at all. So the challenge, if it comes to recycling, is to prevent most of the recycling, if you ask me.
There was also two very important aspects in your answer. One is that, of course, you want to know which second life case you can use the batteries for. And then within that second life or even third life case, how long can it be used in there? Because as you said, if it's a storage next to the kindergarten, people want to be on the safe side. So they probably, if they don't know what's happening with the battery, they took it out sooner than later. But if you do know what's happening with the battery, you can actually really use it until it has completed its potential and it's really been used to the very end point, right?
Yes, of course. And you can do even more if we talk about sustainability. If you have under control, I say under control, but obviously you just see what the battery is doing. If you see what your batteries are doing, and the storage in the example of the kindergarten consists of many modules of batteries, and then you see there's just one module inside that expires faster than the other ones. Usually, you would take out this storage if this particular module has expired, because this could be a risk for all the others. Then I could go there and say, okay, I see that one of your models is not so good as the others. Could we just replace it? And then your storage can run perfectly, maybe by 1 or 2 years longer than usually. So monitoring what is happening inside the storage does make sense. one hand, because of security issues, for sure. On the other hand, if I see that there is something going on that could affect the lifetime of the battery storage, I could do something against it and enlarge the lifetime in the end.
So just to prevent that not one rotten apple spoils the whole food basket, so to say. We talked, either you have all the data or you just take a look inside. You've also been advocating for a battery passport, just in order, to help recycling companies to really quickly know what's happening with the battery, to record the content. But what I'm lost here is, like, do I really need the passport if I have this 90-second quick check? And also, if we start introducing battery passports, does it also mean that the manufacturers actually have to come together and agree on a standard, which usually takes some time? So also 2 questions again, but how reasonable is the passport? Why do we need it? And how far are we away from really having a standardized passport?
You have pointed out exactly the right 2 points. So the idea of the battery passport is a great one, to be honest. That's why we support it. But when it comes to realization, the difficulties wait around the corner, and you named it. It's because all parties have to come together at one table and find a conclusion. The actual idea is that every battery has its own ID document where you can find important information, such as some composition of the materials or the state of health, which is very important for second life applications. But there the problems start. With this information, it would be much easier to decide what to do with a used battery, but the devil's in the detail. First, I don't think that we will see a common understanding of how the battery passport should look like until 2025 or even later, because of this problem that everyone has to be on the same table. And even after that, there is still no standard definition of how these values are calculated. So you can get a battery with an SOH value, or a state of the battery value, printed on it. There you can read 98% is SOH, but what stays behind of this number, you will never know. Somebody can just write it there because he has to write a number there. Other ones could have tested the battery, and in other cases, they just read it from the BMS, and all of us know that coming values from the BMS, one sensor is wrong, and the value is misleading and can cause security issues in the end. So your first question, do I really need the battery passport when I have these 90 seconds test? I think in the future we will need both. First of all, the battery passport to just give us dates and numbers and an understanding at all. But I myself definitely would always physically test the batteries afterwards. You don't have to use our method, of course, but test the batteries, because sometimes there are issues inside you cannot see from the data at all. And then they should be tested because we want to have safe storages.
All right. So it's a complex picture. We might still need some time to agree on standardizing, but passports generally make sense. I mean, I think it's also something that is independently from the industry. All products just generally need a passport these days. I think the European legislators are also looking for the digital product passport generally, no matter if it's a battery, if it's an engine, if it's whatever spare part. So I guess that just makes sense to really have an insight throughout the whole supply chain or life cycle. Well, what is left to say? Where will the journey take us from here? I know you really, you've been around for 9 years with your company, but I think that's not the end of the road by far. So what are the next innovations that are in the pipeline? Where do you see your industry heading?
Again, a big question. Okay. Yes. We have talked in the beginning about what is possible with AI and what is maybe not possible with AI. If you allow me, I can complete the picture a bit, that we can see where we can go together. So us as NOVUM at the moment, we can perfectly monitor stationary battery storages. We can do this kind of quick testing in stationary applications right now to get batteries a bit more sustainable. In the future, we have these tests even in a mobile application, in a smart handheld, so that even in the workshops, batteries can be quick tested. It's nice. But your question was toward where the future is going generally. So I think in the near future, we will have a fully automated energy and trading decision with AI. Not everything from NOVUM, but huge parts of it by NOVUM, where the AI decides how a battery storage will run regarding a sweet spot between revenue and battery lifetime and safety. So it's always a compromise between these 3 factors. And a huge part of this we can already do, But there's still something to do. So whenever a partner wants to talk to us, we are very, very happy to change some thoughts. And if you ask me personally where the journey should go, maybe for the whole branch, I would prefer to use batteries in a much more sustainable way than we do it right now, meaning driving them in cars until they are really expired, or using them in a second or even a third life, and in another car, and in a last life in a stationary application. All this only works if you have good information about how good a battery is and when it has to be changed. And in every step in this chain, I would like to support with the AI of NOVUM.
And yeah, as you rightly also point out, that is something we really need to agree on today as these batteries are manufactured, as these batteries are sent onto the road. Otherwise, we have a huge problem in 10 years. Of course, AI by that point is also a huge step ahead. Maybe we even will be able to solve the riddle by then. But we now lay the tracks for what to do with the second and third life case in the future. So I guess the industry really needs to come together to make decisions together. What will happen with all the batteries we end up with in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So thanks a lot. That was a very lively insight into what's happening in regards to AI and electric energy storage. Wonderful. It's been great to have you on the podcast, Mandy. Thanks a lot for all these lively insights. It's been a real pleasure.
No, thanks by my side. It was a pleasure.
Would you like to know even more of the latest news and developments in the battery sector? Then take a look at EES Europe, Europe's largest and most international exhibition for batteries and energy storage systems. On our website, you will regularly find the latest news, interviews, market graphics, and much more. Check out ees-europe.com.